One. Okay, gotta press got it on my screen. And hey folks, welcome to the third official episode of the Exchange of Exchanges podcast. Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah. So today we have our third guest, which is Mr. Christian Harrison. So could you just introduce yourself?
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Christian Harrison, and I was born and currently live in Huntsville, Alabama, the United States of America. For those of you that aren't aware of America's geography, Alabama is located in the southern part of the United States, the southeast. If you know where Florida is, it's that state northwest that borders Florida, because the other state is Georgia. And specifically about Huntsville, it's really known for its contribution to America's space and aeronautics program. Just for as an example, the scientist Werner von Braun in Huntsville, Alabama, uh, designed the Saturn V missile, which was used in the Apollo 11 moon landing. So there's a lot of history in space and aeronautics.
Merci, thank you. And you went to Japan, so why don't you talk about where was it you were in Japan, when was it, and all that?
So, if for some of the people that watched the previous episode with Sam, I was in the same program as Sam. I was also lived in Kyoto for about 7 months, and I guess that's an explanation there. The banana-shaped main island of Honshu, kind of that center piece part, which is nice because it does give you access to the other prefectures there. And specifically in Kyoto, it was Nishikyogoku, that district ward, however they want to call it. And what was interesting about Nishikyogoku was it's not a tourist area. You really don't see other non-Japanese foreigners there, at least not non-Asian foreigners. So when you go into the convenience store, they'll speak to you in Japanese. You can compare it to, say, the Nishiki market, which in the past was, from what I've heard my other Japanese friends say, just nothing but foreigners. They would speak to me in English, like, even if I spoke a little bit of Japanese, it just kept going in English, like, all right, we're doing this.
Nishikyogoku, a wonderful place. Wonderful?
I mean, it was about 5 minutes. That apartment complex was about 5 minutes from the station, so that's actually nice. Like, take a 5 minute walk and go to Osaka or go to Kawaramachi. That easy. What was close was also the Nishi Kyogoku sports complex.
Yeah. So you talked about what university? Kyoto University of Foreign Studies, right?
Yeah, Kyoto University of Foreign Studies, aka Kyoto Gaidai, or as our program director would call it, he would say CUFS, KUFS. That's a bit easier to say. But yeah, that's where we're at.
So how is CUFS compared to like your American university? Is it very different than studying in the US?
To me, it was, since I come from a business background. My degree was in information systems. My second degree is in finance. So those are both business degrees. The program we're in was Kyoto University of Foreign Studies, their exchange program where you study Japanese. I think there's an English section portion of that too, but we're all in the Japanese section as native English speakers. And that was a bit different. And the biggest difference for me was just the constant homework, which is a good thing when you're learning a foreign language. When I took Russian at my home university, it was very similar. Like, you had homework a lot. And so constant homework compared to at my home university, they would hand out the syllabus. And it's like, okay, we got tests on these 3 days, these 3 dates. Be ready for that. And all right, I'm going to start lecturing. That was the that was the class. That could be like one class. Another class would be like, all right, we're going to have group projects. In my language classes, we didn't really have any group projects. We had group discussions, but not so much like, hey, you're in a group. Here's your project for the semester.
Mhm.
And
And
I guess another thing that's different at Guide, they actually have a lunch like period. That was kind of surprising to me because at my home university is like, now you kind of just set aside a time where you don't have classes and you can eat or not
oh,
eat. Yeah, you don't have the pleasure of a lunch period.
oh, you don't get lunch or no lunch period.
Nah, but you can set it up to where maybe you're doing two or three classes at once and then you're done for the day. Or
Ah, okay.
yeah, it's a bit more flexible than Guide Ice, like definite block schedule, which
Hmm.
to me seems a bit more like a high school schedule, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it basically it's a high school schedule at Gaidai.
It
I
kind of
think.
kind of has a bit of a high school like atmosphere to me. Just to me, because everything's close together. Yeah, you have multiple buildings, but American universities have these very some of them have very big campuses. So having to only
Mhm.
walk maybe like 5 minutes to the your next class instead of like 10 or 15 is a bit different.
Yeah, Gaidai is pretty small, so
Mhm.
it's everyone kind of knows each other. So it's a lot. It's a different atmosphere.
A lot of camaraderie and kind of also the groups, the yeah, groups and stuff were interesting too. One thing I kind of regret was never actually doing any of the groups, but oh well, live and learn.
Yeah, live and learn. Well, but now you're a remote exchange student, right? So you're doing
Yeah.
classes online
Mhm.
inside the US. So why don't you talk a bit about that for people just wondering what it's like to be an exchange student in Japan in the US?
Well, the first thing I guess I probably should say is it is cheaper doing that here as I don't have to pay rent. It's different from person to person depending on their
Mm,
circumstances. I'm fortunate enough that my parents are okay with me staying here and taking classes. So I don't actually have to pay rent and it's just cheaper than actually being over there. But on the other hand, you do have to deal with the time zone difference.
mm,
So I'm in central time zone. That's about a 14-hour difference. So when my classes start, it's 7:10 p.m. the night before. As in, it's 7 p.m., 7:10 p.m. at night on Sunday, and it's like 9 p.m., 9:10 a.m. the next day in Japan.
mm.
So that is kind of a like, whoa. And fortunately for me, I was able to set up the schedule where the classes end at 1:30, but it's for the next semester, I am gonna have to think about, okay, if I can't get in at that point in time, I might have to, I'm gonna have to take some of these classes that end at 3 a.m. over here
Yeah.
and just gotta, prepare myself for that.
Hmm. Is there like opportunities to like discuss or you actually practice your Japanese online or
In the scope of Gaidai or just outside of Gaidai,
in scope of Gaidai with online classes?
you discuss, so for that program, they have the comprehensive Japanese. You do a lot of discussion with they're gonna how they're gonna have this set up, even though there's not as many exchange students right now,
Mm,
you're always gonna be partnered with there's always gonna be an extra student there. So it's gonna be like a student or two, from what I've noticed.
okay.
And this is one of the a benefit to it, but you can they'll have like, okay, you're gonna discuss what do you think about this or that, and you say your opinion, the other student says their opinion. And one thing like being as a remote exchange student because there's not so many because the classes are smaller right now,
Mm,
you have more opportunities for personal attention.
mm,
Like, for example, and Japanese like intonation or something is a bit wonky. The teacher's like, oh hey, it should be like this, not like that. And they can actually like really practice it with you. For say, compared to last time, that class maybe had about 20, 25 or so students. You don't really have that leeway for the practice like that with the teacher. So that is actually something nice, I think. Also, I do feel like, for example, you would have speeches too. You would have to listen to maybe 24, or you have to go through 25 student speeches. Here it's only two, and it does give you time for extra like activities, extra discussions. So it's definitely like, there are strong points and weak points to it.
Hmm.
It's not all black and white, in my opinion.
Well, now that we talked about being an online exchange student, we should go back to being physical, what it's like living in Japan. So why
Mhm.
don't you talk about some culture shocks you faced?
The biggest one I would say would be so I stick out over there. Like, let's be honest. I don't look anything Japanese. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong if you do look Japanese. It's perfectly fine. Uh, One of the biggest things I noticed was just people like staring at me. And this is stuff I've heard from other foreigners over in Japan. But to give an example, it's the first day I'm over in Gaidai. After classes, I'm like, okay, I don't really know this school, so I'm just gonna go walk around a little bit, familiarize myself with my environment. I walked to the building for like one of the upper stories from what was that building, seven or something? I don't know, one of those
Yeah.
buildings. And there's like these three other Japanese students. Yeah, they're Japanese because afterwards they were speaking Japanese. And I'm just looking around. I look at one of them. She's looking at me. We're kind of just looking at each other for a second. And she's like, hello. I'm like, hey, what's up? And then she starts giggling and says her other friend, like, oh, he's American. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to walk on. But, and there's another time, me and my other friend was tall too. So he, in the metric system, I'm not very familiar with that but he was like 6 foot 6 inches around that. 6'4". He was like a very tall guy.
Yeah.
And we were both together. We were walking past these two students sitting on the bench. I kind of look at them a little bit. They're looking at each other. One looks up and she looks over at us, and then she looks up at my friend. I just started laughing. I was like, because yeah, it's not really often you see a guy that tall, I guess,
Mhm.
over there. And it kind of happened outside of the university too. It's not all like isolated to the university.
Yeah.
What was it? I was with Sam because me and Sam, since we were in the same program, we hung out a bit. We were at Osaka Expo City or something
Mhm.
around in Ibaraki City, and we ordered stuff from the food court. I was throwing away my food. I come back. Sam's like, "Hey man, these two women? They were like just staring at you." It's like, "Oh really? I didn't notice." I don't know. Though. I think there's also another time we were in God, what's that place called? Nikonbashi or something in Osaka. It was like
Yeah.
us and Joe. And I had like two phones out, I think. Because you remember, because we
Yeah.
were
I
canceling
remember.
tickets,
Yeah.
and I was like talking to Sam, walking him through how to cancel it. And had your phone out or something. And I think you're the one that told me like these two women passed were like, oh, cute, kawaii. They're saying
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's these two girls dressed as like what was it? I forget, like maids or something. And they're walking past and like, oh, かっこいいね.
Okay.
Kawaii. That gaijin charm, you know?
Yeah, that was just like I was like, why are people staring at me? Or I was just thinking like, why am I getting stared at? But
Can I?
eventually I just kind of focus on myself and I don't
Yeah.
really notice it or I just stop caring.
You know,
Those,
it's the gold hair.
maybe.
It's a beacon of hope for Japanese people, I guess.
And there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, I like your hair. Hey, thanks. Uh, there was this guy we met up at the Gaidai festival, the fall festival,
Hmm.
and he actually didn't go to Gaidai, so that was a bit interesting. And he was noticing around before one of the performances, he's like, "Oh man, I see all these people. They have their hairs dyed." It's like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Yeah, my hair's not dyed." He's like, "Oh, that's good." That was a he was an interesting fellow. He said he likes bad things, and so you remember how Sam had these John Lennon, these big round frame glasses with
Yeah.
different colored lenses.
Hmm.
Sam gives him like the red lens, and he's like, "I want to take a bad picture of me," as in like, so he's like flipping the bird or something for taking the picture and taking a picture. I'm like, my God, just stuff like that.
American culture, you know.
Yeah,
They want to be Americanized. Actually, do you know on the Attack of the Culture Festival? Remember that like when there's like that small girls idol group singing,
kind of.
and
I remember there's a cross dressing part.
yeah,
Are you talking about the cross dressing part or
no, after that.
after that?
I'm not sure if you're there, but I think was it me and Sam maybe, and we were
Might have been.
dancing with like idol groups in Japan. They all have like fan clubs,
Yeah, yes, yes.
and they have like their crazy dances.
Yeah, and I think they
And
have those like clapper things or whatever.
yeah, me and Sam joined them. It was. I think that was my biggest culture shock, joining one of those super fan clubs, and like they pushed us to the front and like showed us their dance moves, and like they have like a lyric sheet and they're like pointing it to us, so we had to sing da 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 nanchara nanchara da da da.
I don't know, man. I don't know. There's a lot of chill people over in Japan. Like, kind of the image we have over here, at least before I came over there for Japanese people, was that they're very industrious, that they
Mhm.
work too much, too much overtime, that kind of stuff. And I'd say there probably is some truth to that. But maybe because I lived in Kansai and not Kanto, but
Yeah.
they were, I don't know, I thought the people were very just like nice. They, they were interested like where I came from and stuff. Just a little example. I was working out at the Nishikyogoku Park, and my other American friend was there. We are going to play frisbee afterwards, and these two old, like these, I guess it's an older couple. There's a older man and woman. They came up to us. They started talking to us. That kind of surprised me. It's also even funnier was afterwards the lady talks to the man. It's like, oh, I thought you were studying English. That's one of the things she asked us if we speak Japanese. I was like, kind of. I
Hmm.
was like, kind of. Then she talks to the man. It's like, oh, I thought you were studying English.
uh,
Also,
interesting.
yeah. Uh, this was also another big culture shock was that there are Jehovah's Witnesses in Japan
Oh,
too.
yeah. There's actually quite a few I've noticed.
Yeah, I was working out in the park, and one comes up to me and hands me a card and asks me how long I'm going to be there in Japan. I was like the card, like, oh, it's a Jehovah's Witness. And to be honest, this is one of the last places I thought a Jehovah's Witness would be.
Yeah, actually, I see them all the time, like along Kawamachi. Like they always have someone standing on one of the bridges with the
I see.
pamphlets.
Kind of just handing out stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to take a picture of it and send it to my friend. It's like, look, man, they got Jehovah's Witness here. It's like, what?
Uh,
Yeah.
well,
I
I
say,
guess.
because I don't know, outside of that, there wasn't too many culture shocks. I guess it was a little funny. I was getting my hair cut and I was talking about something like my hair and stuff. And he's like, ah, sexy. I was like,
Uh,
oh, there's another
I
dude calling
love
me sexy.
I love Japanese. Sometimes Japanese people use the right word, but like an extreme version of the word, like that.
Yeah, and he was saying it as Japanese pronounce it, sexy. So,
Or Mr. Shekushi.
because I don't know, it's somehow gone to the discussion of like how people compliment my hair, my eyes, lips, that kind of stuff. Lips was kind of strange for me, but that's whatever. And he's like, ah, sexy. I was
uh,
like, yeah.
American superstar. Well, I guess now that we talked about probably one of the best experiences being called sexy, we should talk about biggest disappointments, eh?
Oh, biggest
Ooh.
disappointment. Honestly, just straight up, it was the weather. Uh, so in Alabama in the South, it's very hot and humid. In fact, it's the weather where I live in Huntsville is very similar to Kyoto,
Mm.
probably because Huntsville's in a valley, Kyoto's in kind of a valley area, surrounded by mountains. So just very hot, humid. When I go back over there, because I arrived into Tokyo in the
Hmm.
Narita, and took trains over to Shibuya. When we were taking the trains, I was like, it's not colder at all. It's hot. It's as hot as Huntsville is. I was kind of disappointed because I'm just like not drenched in sweat, but I'm sweaty. I'm like, man, it is not colder at all. That was just a big disappointment.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
Other disappointments. Honestly, nothing's really coming to mind. I guess maybe like food's a bit different. That's not really a disappointment to me, but kind of stuff like olives are maybe twice the price over there as they are here or something.
yeah.
Like I'm sure you've noticed it. You look for cooking oil,
Mm.
like the canola oil is half the price of the olive oil. I usually cooked with olive oil. And I was like, why is this so much more expensive? So I just would buy a canola oil. I guess I'm cooking with canola oil.
Yeah, my
Not,
biggest
mhm.
disappointment's no cheese curds.
Oh yeah, cheese is. They don't have much cheese over there in Japan. I've noticed. Not at all. That's something I've heard from another friend. She did a year exchange at England, and she's like, "Yeah, they had all these cheese, and it was so nice. All these different kinds of cheese." In Japan, I think you have maybe like the five cheese kind of thing or whatever.
Mm, yeah. You got American cheese,
Yeah,
cheddar, mozzarella, shredded,
yeah,
and like some kind of brie, like a soft cheese. It's
yeah,
about
yeah. Actually, I didn't notice any kind of feta cheese.
yeah, nah, I didn't really see feta. There's also like a laughing cow style cheese.
I think
Like
yeah.
oh, you do you know what laughing cow is? Don't know?
I do not. Never heard of
Oh,
it.
this must be a cultural difference then. But
It might be.
it's like a miniature cheese wheel
Mhm.
wrapped in wax in Canada.
Okay, okay.
So it's like cheese wrapped in wax, and it's
Okay,
you know,
gotcha.
I think that's laughing cow. Or is that another cheese? No,
Hmm?
laughing cow is like the triangle cheeses, like the
Okay.
soft. Maybe I don't know. I forgot. It's one of those two.
Yeah. Well, we got some kind of cheese like that in America. I just never noticed, and I don't know the name.
I just remember the TV commercials from when I was a kid.
Mhm.
So I guess it's been successful, even though I never buy it. So I really don't know what it is.
Yeah, they really got into your head. It's in your
Uh,
subconscious now.
so my subconscious, no matter where I go, no matter where I travel, and on the subject of travel, oh look at that transition.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I didn't know how to move it from laughing cow. Uh, how's traveling in Japan? What's it like?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
So before I guess yeah, we can call it the COVID era now. But before the COVID era, it was pretty good. Like public transportation is very good. Trains come on time for the most part. Like, I don't actually think they are late. Buses come on time for the most part, maybe like a minute or two, give or take early, late. And so just traveling by the public transportation was very good. In here, Huntsville, you have to drive. The public transportation is just a bus route, which is very lacking. And and that was very nice. I'm very grateful for that because, like I said earlier, you could take a 5 minute walk from our apartment to the Nishikyogoku station, and from Nishikyogoku station, you take like a 50-minute train ride to Osaka Umeda station, or go to pretty much a whole new prefecture. Or if you want to ride a little bit longer, you could go to Kobe, another prefecture, for about 1,000 yen. Would you say that trip
Hmm.
was maybe like 1,000 yen ish? And so that was very nice, very convenient. Also, how we went to Otsushiga from Kyoto Station for, God, that was maybe like 400 yen or something, very cheap. uh, Also, the buses, like they do have a bus, like a night bus. We're gonna take that, but unfortunately to Tokyo, but unfortunately, due to the COVID situation, we're like, we're not gonna do this. It's too risky. And I did take a bus from Kyoto Station to Nagoya, and that was actually very smooth. It took about 3 hours from Kyoto
Hmm.
Station with a half-hour rest stop in the middle of it. I think it was like 3.5 hours because they kind of split up between one and the other. So that's nice. Traveling really wasn't an issue for me as long as you have money. And I don't think it's too expensive to travel or anything because going to Nagoya, the bus ticket round trip was about 5,000 yen ish, which is, I think, to me, is pretty cheap. Like, you're going kind of that far out for that much money, and you got your return trip home.
Yeah, actually, traveling's pretty cheap in Japan because they just have such a good network.
Mhm. Also, I think those night bus tickets, they're like, I think, what were they like per person? 1 to 2,000 yen?
Where to Tokyo?
Yeah, the Tokyo.
Oh, to Tokyo, it's more than that. It's like the cheapest you can get. It's like 5,000, but it's like 5,000 to Ichiman one way.
Okay, 5,000 one way. I could have sworn that was actually a little bit cheaper when we were in it. Maybe because it was due to that situation at the time.
I know.
Because I remember it was actually a pretty cheap trip, but no, the night bus definitely a lot cheaper than the bullet trains.
Yeah,
Actually,
it's
oh
a
yeah, I actually got to ride on the bullet train from Tokyo to Kyoto, so that was nice too.
mm,
It wasn't my first experience riding a bullet train, so I've been to Russia and I went from Moscow to St. Petersburg on the bullet train on the Sapson. That's what I
mm,
believe what it was called. And yeah, they're very nice experience, much better than flying where you're not cramped into an aisle with maybe two other people you don't know or on another person you don't know. Though on the way back from St. Petersburg, we were sitting at this table. It was me. I was sitting there on the other side, diagonal was my mom. And there were like these two random Russian women that I didn't know. And one was an older lady. When my mom asked me something in English, I responded. She kind of looks at me. I think she's a bit surprised that there's like native English speakers sitting next to him or Americans. Because unlike Japan, over in Russia, uh, I don't really stick out. There were a couple of people that came up to me and they'd speak to me in Russian.
mhm.
Uh, Otherwise, for traveling, I guess it's also the plane. Don't really have too much experience with that because we kind of just took our plane when we had to leave. We took our plane from the KIX in Osaka to Was it the Narita? I think it was the Narita. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those two airports in Tokyo, around the region. Actually, I think you have more experience with the plane system over there.
Yeah, I mean, I've ridden it a few times. I don't know. It's planes.
Yeah,
I feel like planes are kind of universal.
kind of
It's
is.
it's it's cramped. Sometimes you get a window. Sometimes you get an aisle.
I was always
Um,
better though.
I'm a window person, because if you're lucky, maybe you can see Mount Fuji. Never know.
Oh, hey, that's fine if we're in the same aisle. You can take the window. I'll take the aisle seat.
There you
No
go.
issue there.
And you see, when I need to use the bathroom, I can. It's you that gets inconvenienced, not me.
Oh, I'm not
So,
inconvenienced. I'm looking for every chance I can to stand up. That's why I like the aisle seat.
yeah, that's fair. Also, if you get the aisle seat, sometimes you can go ask the what's it called? You just go walk to the back and ask a staff member, "Oh, is there any free children's toys?" And sometimes you get a free plane.
Have you actually done that?
Yeah, last
I didn't know
last
this was
time,
a thing.
yeah, last I took Japan Airlines, right? And
Uh-huh.
during COVID, there's no people. I was like, do I? I'm gonna go ask and see if they have a free airplane toy. And if they do, I'm gonna take it because I'm a child.
Mhm.
And so I went there and I asked, "Do you have any free children's toys?" And they're like, "Sure. Do you want one?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I have a little tiny plane now.
Oh,
So
hey, there you
you know, this is inside advice if you take Japan Airlines. I'm not sure about other ones, but
go. I don't think American Airlines would have that, but that does seem something like a Japanese airline would have toys of their mascot or something.
actually, I think I have my suitcase beside me. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, am I gonna need to dig? Oh, oh, am I gonna be a disappointment? I think I'm gonna be a disappointment.
All riding on you.
Oh, I found it. See, look,
Ah, I see.
it's a plane puzzle.
Hey, yeah, there you go.
Tokyo 2020.
Uh,
This is. I won't open it. It's gonna be a collector's item in like 50 years.
that's like this Tokyo 2020 keychain I bought. Or
Oh,
in
there
the
you go.
yeah, in the Narita airport when we were leaving. I was like, what? I'm just gonna buy this. I have extra yen, so I
I
might as well
like
get the.
I like we still call it Tokyo 2020. What is it? Is it Tokyo 2020 still, or is it called Tokyo 2021?
I don't know. To be honest, I haven't really been paying attention to it. Kind of lost interest in like a lot of the Olympic stuff. Not now, but just beforehand. Like the Rio Olympics, I didn't really watch.
Yeah, I just like the closing ceremony. I'll be honest.
Yeah, opening, closing, the big shebang.
Well, we should. Now we're talking about sports. We should talk about working out. Is that a good?
Yes,
Yeah, there you go. Let's
yeah.
talk. Why don't?
That's I mean, working out is working out. It doesn't really matter which country you're in, but some countries have different facilities, or some some countries have easier access to facilities or gyms. Luckily for Nishikyo-goku, if you don't want to actually pay for a gym membership, I've heard there's a Gold's Gym around there that costs a lot of money, like 10,000 yen per month or something. I don't know.
Hmm.
I wasn't really at that point in time, even though I had gotten tired of weightlifting. And I was doing a bit more calisthenic exercises, which for those that don't know, it's more body weight training. And so I was fortunate that from the Nishikyo Goku comprehensive training, like sports park, that's the quite literal translation because it's like Sogo, Undo Kon. Like, that was about 10-minute walk or something. Yeah, like 10 minutes. And Yeah, just 10 minutes away. They had pull-up bars. They had a place where you could do dips. A very it's not really a track, but you could run around the stadium for a bit. Only downside to that is you're running on like it's not concrete, but it's very hard stone. So not the best for your joints. That's gonna do too much of that. You're gonna be paying the price in the future. And but I mean, I never had an issue finding a spot like by the pull-up bars. I could there's a raised up spot. I'm sure you remember that area where I could actually jump rope at. And I don't know, this same thing happens in America though, so it's not a Japan thing, but while I'm jumping rope or working out, I do see people like staring at me.
Mm.
But that's probably more just what I was doing. Like people stared at me back here, jumping rope or something, or some of the exercises. In fact, I actually had some person who's like, "That's so amazing." I'm like, "Do you want to take a video of it?" Yes. I'm like, okay. So this was in America. She took a video of me
Mm.
doing one of these exercises. I didn't mind, but yeah, stuff like that. I remember they were doing weed eating, weed eating, and I was working on the pull-up bar, and one of the workers comes up to me because he's telling me like, "Hey, we're about to come to this area. You know, how much longer do you have?" I was like, "I don't know, almost done." And as he's about to leave, he's like, "You got amazing muscles." Legit. He's like, "Sugoi kinniku." That's what he said.
Mm.
I was like, "Ah, thanks."
Omedetou. Congratulations.
I was just And like I said, over there, they had the older, I guess they were a couple maybe, or just friends, whatever. They came and talked to me and my friend. This was also a very kind of funny and cool thing at the same time. Uh, I was actually with that same exchange student. It was the same day. So, you know, these two events happened on the same day. Uh, it looked like they were taking these preschool kids somewhere for activities. As they were passing us, they looked at us and they're like, "Good morning, Ohio gozaimasu," that kind of stuff. It was very sweet. And I was like, like, they're just all saying that. I was like, wow. And I was with two other people. This happened on another day. Someone rides a bike, like, "Hello, how are you?" I'm like, "Do I know you?" Like, as he's riding the bike past me, he just shouts it out. I'm like, I don't know this person. Which I don't know. Were you there when we had that group of middle school students come up to us? We were teaching Sam how to ride a bike.
Oh, I wasn't there, but I
No,
remember. I
yeah,
remember the Instagram sharing.
but that was also like, huh? Is it that? I don't know. To me, it was like, oh, is it that unusual to see, I don't know, foreigners around that area? That was
Mhm.
just kind of interesting to me. Like, you have this whole group of middle school students wanting to come up to us and talk to us.
No, well, everyone wants to practice their English they learn in school.
Yeah, some people do. Actually, also for working out, Guide does have like a weightlifting room, kind of a yeah. To be honest, it's a little bit old in my opinion, the
Mm.
facility, but it gets the job done. Only thing is, you might know more about this. From what I've heard, the bodybuilding club goes in there on certain days, and like unless you're a part of that club, you can't really work out there on that day. And one of the residences, Resby, they have another weight room area. They have weights and stuff you can work out. Uh, Not as good as the other place that the other facility guide I has, but it's good enough, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh, I'd say if you're a heavy weightlifter, like you're really big into powerlifting or whatever, you're probably going to want to pony up the money for a gym membership. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to find like accessible weights.
Hmm.
And I guess if you want to take the chance, you can always just work out at the guide eyes facility because, like I said, it gets the job done.
Yeah. Well, we should probably we're getting close to completion, so just got a few more questions. And the
Mhm.
most important one is what is it like being a Japanese speaking foreigner in Japan?
That was a bit interesting. It's always a kind of not a stereotype, but it's always that joke. You say my name is or I am like watashi wa. They're like, oh, nihongo jozo. Your Japanese is good. Like, uh, an example of that, I was at this restaurant called this ramen place called Toritani, I think. Yeah, something like that. I just read like a menu item off. It was like, oh, your Japanese is good. I'm like, all I did was just read from the menu though. Like I didn't do much. And I do feel like maybe for foreigners, their expectations on how good their Japanese is a bit lower, maybe.
Mhm.
Um, because when I first went there, even though I'd studied Japanese for maybe like 4 years ish, uh, I had been kind of doing it like by myself, self study. So I didn't really have good fundamentals. And something I do have to give credit to is the school. Like they really helped me out on my fundamentals, and that's the reason why I re-upped for them because like I know how they work. I know that you can get progress with the school, for me at least. And yeah, it was never a doubt in my mind. Like, okay, I want to keep studying Japanese, so I go back to Kyoto University of Foreign Studies.
Mhm.
And back to where I was before I kind of got a little bit off topic on that. Uh, shoot, where was I at?
uh, Torito, not Torito, ramen.
Toritani.
Wow,
Yeah,
Josu Nihongo.
yeah, that. I was saying, I think they kind of have a bit of a lower expectation.
Mhm.
But kind of another thing, I went to the when I first got my haircut, it's like, ah, you're speaking Japanese very well, pera pera. And at that time, I didn't know what pera pera meant. Pera pera meant. I was like, uh, I was just thinking, I was like, Japanese is hard. I Nihongo ga muskashi desu. That's why I said Japanese is hard. And that, thankfully that kind of got, that kept the conversation going without it being awkward. But there are definitely some times I said some I know was weird. Like I didn't know how to exactly explain it. So I just went with something and you can tell they didn't really understand it either because they just start smiling like, yeah,
Wow. Ugh.
yeah. And there's that. One thing also, depending on how proficient you are at Japanese, uh, for certain situations, I would just have to like I would have to think my line, like my first line, like what do I want to say first to kind of get this thing rolling. An
Mhm.
example of that is like when I'm getting my haircut, I want to tell them, hey, I don't have an appointment, but I is it okay if I still get a haircut? They're like, yeah, and you just go from there because you can't really map out a whole conversation. That's to me, that's not
Yeah.
feasible. The best thing you can really do if your proficiency just isn't there at that moment is think what do you want to say first to just get it rolling. And from there, you have to improvise, which is very good experience, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's fun. Tanoshii.
it is actually really fun. Uh, Sometimes you would think like you kind of have a little bit of plan. Like we had to go to the city hall for health insurance registration or something, and that's something I actually do want to say a little bit about. As a foreign student, you do have to pay health insurance. I know as I was mentioned in the episode with Sam, there wasn't really clarified, but yeah, you have to pay it. It's I forgot how much money it is. It's really not much for an exchange student,
Mhm.
but you do have to pay health insurance. Anyways, you go there for. I went there. I was like, okay, I have this big email from the Department of International Affairs about this. So I said, "Hey, I got this email about the from my university about this." They looked at it, and we were able to get the paperwork going, and I actually got through it pretty smoothly. Uh, Compared to my other friend, who he had to improvise a lot, and he probably took about twice as long
Hmm.
during that process. Yes, and also what's also neat is even if you don't understand everything fully, you can kind of through voice tone and everything, you can kind of see where a conversation's going. Like at a restaurant, I'd ordered something, but they're like, "Oh, we don't have this in store because it's late at night."
Mhm.
And I didn't fully understand that, but I was like, "Okay, if they keep talking to me, there's probably something not right with it." I was like, "Oh, can I have this?" "Oh, yeah." It goes on. The guy sitting next to me is like, "Wow, your Japanese is very good." I'm like, "Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
thanks."
of course.
I'm just I'm winging this. So there's a bit of improvisation, which I think is I don't know. It can be a good thing and a bad thing.
Mhm.
It's always it's always fun though.
Would you say how much Japanese do you think a person needs before they come to Japan, or do you think it's okay without it?
You definitely to make everything easier and smoother for you and your speaking partner or whoever you're going to converse with. It's I mean, obviously, like if you can be fluent, but that's not feasible for everybody, through time restrictions or whatever. Uh, you can get by with very little to no Japanese, but it's just difficult. One of the other students, you know him too, that was in our program, uh, he didn't know much Japanese in there, and so what he would do when he would order, he would point at the menu. It's like this, or if it's pizza, he would say with a bit of a Japanese accent, "Pizza, potato," yeah, kind of like that. And
Ugh.
you kind of do, I guess, adapt to it, but you have to think you're living in this foreign land, and maybe for some people it's just 3 months or a year, or maybe they actually want to transition to actually working in there, which you do need be very proficient depending on the job.
Mm.
But do you really want to live like not knowing your surroundings, what the people are saying, without really being able to read the signs, or having to do charades with a convenience store worker when you're paying something like health insurance?
Mm.
Like, the more you know, the easier it is. I mean, there is a certain point where it's like you don't really need to know anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you get diminishing returns, but you can do it. I think it's possible to do it without knowing any Japanese, but you should at least be able to read the kana, hiragana, katakana, at least know some key phrases. And yeah, I'll just say kind of study up like what's important for you. At least be able to read a little bit. And what
Hmm.
are some phrases you think are going to be useful? Uh, Other than that, I mean, learning how to write kanji and stuff is, I don't know, for a normal life. As a student, it's kind of necessary because you would do a lot of writing, and you don't want to be that guy that's like taking forever to write kanji because you're looking up every kanji stroke like I was. Last one to finish some kind of writing assignment in the class because you're like, how's this go? How's this go? Anyways, writing I don't think is too important because a lot of stuff is digital. You type it,
Yeah.
and but when you're filling out paperwork at the city hall or immigration or whatever, you probably want to at least be able to write your address, your name, and hiragana, write the kanji for that. So just like what's important to you, what do you think you're going to be using most often in your life, and just practice that if you
Hmm.
don't have the time to actually study the language itself. But being there, you have so many opportunities to immerse yourself in Japanese that I really do recommend. Like, if you have at least any bit of interest in it, do take the chance and do take the effort to study the language because, uh, like, if you're an exchange student and when you go back home, those opportunities are going to shrink, and it's a little bit more difficult, depending where you live, for time zone and stuff, to set up meetings to talk with other Japanese people.
Hmm.
So it's just like, hey, you have all this opportunity, do take it.
Yeah, makes sense. Well,
I guess,
we're getting
how's your experience with speaking Japanese?
my experience. Yeah, I find like well, as a student, I have a part-time job. Like
Mhm,
my Japanese is very directed towards what I do with my life.
mhm.
Like for example, I work as a gardener, so I know lots of gardening related Japanese. But like daily conversation Japanese, okay, but like other things like government stuff or like
Yeah.
grammar, like there's lots of like I know a lot of basic grammar, but like
Mhm.
there's some like daily grammar which I just don't know, or
Yeah.
daily vocabulary.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
like when it comes to gardening though, I'm set.
Hey, you're a gardening master.
Yeah. But
Actually,
yeah, I
that's
think
hmm. Yeah, yeah, you can keep going.
yeah, like for learning Japanese, it should be directed to what you want to do, directed
Eh,
towards.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Like,
because
if you take a comprehensive approach, which is good if you want to, it really is
mhm,
based on what the person himself, the individual wants. Um, if you take a comprehensive approach, but you really only need to know how to speak, you're not really effectively like you spending your time
yeah,
because
it's you kind of want to do everything for the maximum returns possible.
yeah, yeah. I mean, in my opinion, going comprehensive is good, but it's not really necessary. Absolutely, I do have to stress, like, the more you know, the easier everything is.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not necessary. You can get by, especially if you live in a tourist area.
Hmm.
Like, Kyoto does have some, live in a tourist area or a big city like Tokyo, Osaka. Uh, yeah, I'd say Nagoya probably has some English friendly stuff.
Yeah,
But
definitely
yeah,
definitely the farther out you go, the more you need to know. Like,
yeah.
well,
Like if you live somewhere in Gifu,
yeah. If you're in Gifu, there's you got to know Japanese. That's just
yeah, yeah. If you live in a rural area, you're gonna want to need to know more. So that's kind of, I guess, adding on to that. It also depends. Are you
mhm.
living in a big city or do you live in a rural area? You're gonna be, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
That's that.
Also,
That's
like
mhm.
another thing is depending on the region you go to, the Japanese is different.
Oh yeah, yeah. They have different dialects. That's another thing. Uh, living in Kyoto for that while, you do pick up some Kansai bin,
Mm.
and you do hear it from uh, because it's so close to Osaka. You do hear like people from Osaka coming in. You hear like how the people in Osaka talk. Since I actually went to Nagoya, I was actually able to hear some Nagoya dialect.
Mm. Well, we're approaching our 1 hour mark soon, so
Oh,
just a quick little two things. Any bonus story you want to say, or anything you want to plug into the podcast, Instagram, or anything?
hmm. I mean, if you want to put my Instagram here, I don't really care. It's all
Okay.
good to me. That's
And
yeah, that can
final
be
thing
yeah.
is oh.
I was gonna say that can be discussed afterwards.
Okay, okay.
Bonus advice. I mean, yeah, you want to do stuff like have a budget. Don't.
Hmm.
I would always say study. Don't study too hard. Have fun, but don't have too much fun. like, hey, you are here as a student. Don't forget what your original goal is. Like,
Hmm.
which is different from people to people, but you are here as a student. Do take your studies seriously. Don't be the guy that just skips class and eventually may have to go home because you don't show up for class. I
Yeah.
think uh, I think that does happen, at least for language schools. If you don't have some kind of attendance, for certain language schools, you don't have any kind. You have bad attendance, you get deported, for lack of better terms. But also, I don't know how it is like in this COVID era, but beforehand, you have a lot of opportunities to converse with Japanese students in Gaidai. You have like just all these opportunities. Do take them. Uh, Again, group activities. I'd recommend at least just looking into it. Uh, I kind of wish I'd at least maybe I don't know applied for the ninja stuff just to see
Mm.
oh how would that have gone because probably could have maybe been accepted for their have a chat buddy exchange program. Like there's one for the Japanese, but then there's also one like I would be speaking English with people. That would have been
Yeah.
interesting because kind of just what Joe told me. You do get some money, like not much, but you do get some money out of it. So it's a little bit of a kind of a part-time job you get to do with the school.
Hmm.
Actually, that's uh this is kind of a question I have for you since you've worked over there. Is it easy or hard finding a part-time job?
Hmm. Like for me personally, like it's easy depending on your Japanese level.
Mm-hmm.
Because like for me, when I came, I had zero Japanese. So
Right.
for my part-time job, I got it. Like one of the professors at the university said, "Does somebody want to work at this place?"
I remember
And I
that
was like,
Ninja Museum.
"Yeah, yeah, the ninja." And I was like, "Ah, sure, why not? I'll go for it." So that's how I got my first job. But like for example, like you can apply. Like there's lots of places hiring in Japan. Like restaurants are hiring,
Mhm.
convenience stores are always hiring. There's shops everywhere in Japan, right?
Right.
So if you wanna work in the country as a student, you can, but you will need Japanese to work.
Yeah, I imagine like you need some kind of base. Like
Yeah.
even if you're just like shelf boy, a stacker in a convenience store, you're gonna at least need to know like what the label says. Like, oh, this is that. This is.
Hmm.
I mean, if all you know are pizza and potatoes, it's can be a little difficult.
You never know. You might work at a Domino's.
Just,
Pizza, potato.
hey, yeah, there you go. Uh,
Yeah.
Also, another thing I kind of want to add is, I guess it's still applicable, but they told us in our orientation that exchange students can't actually work at places that serve like alcohol and stuff.
Yeah.
So you can't work at a karaoke place or a like a bar, kind of
Hmm.
an izakaya, those examples, and other places too. You know,
Hmm.
one of the places that you said I'd probably do okay at. You remember that?
I remember.
Yeah.
Uh, use those muscles, eh? Use that fantastic Japanese. もう姉ちゃん、今日嬉しいですか？どうすどうす。Well,
Yeah, that
I
time
think
if you do that, you kind of have to wonder, do I want to tone down my Japanese and speak in a broken Japanese to make it sound cuter or impress
well,
them?
well, it depends on the client. Depends
Uh,
on maybe you could have like a card which they fill out first. Oh, I prefer a man with a broken Japanese. I think
That's for
that's
that
probably a good.
business.
That's probably a good place to stop, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Before I get in too much trouble. Okay.
Yeah, we probably have to
Well,
cut out that last part.
probably. Well,
I mean, we
I
didn't say
guess.
what it was though, so that's good.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I'll decide later. We'll see. We'll see. Anyways, I guess this is the end. So I'll just clap here in case I do cut. And thank you, Mr. Christian, for coming on to the third official episode of the Exchange of Exchanges podcast.
No problem. It was a pleasure.
And we did it. Woo!